Hi guys, and a very warm welcome back to the Give Me a Whole Year Wrestling podcast. This is Dom with a Whole Year Wrestling Thoughts video audio stream. I want to talk about Ricochet and him being kind of pushed and positioned as potentially the new Rock. Now I know that's quite a vast and big kind of prediction, but I think that his look, his vibe, his moveset is exciting. I think he needs to work on his mic skills, but I think the WWE backstage are very, very high on Ricochet, very, very excited about his future in the company. And I think of anybody, that's not Roman Reigns, not Braun Strowman, not Seth Rollins, not Bray Wyatt, etc. Ricochet is the guy that I think we will be pushing to the absolute forefront of the company over the next 10 years. I think if anybody is the new Rock, and will go on to those movie deals, go on to that Hollywood success in the next 10 to 15 years. Even though Ricochet, I think he's a little older than people think, but I believe he will go on to much bigger things post his wrestling career as well. He just has a great look, and I think the WWE, I know Paul Heyman, like I say, is a huge fan of Ricochet's and his skill set. So I think that Ricochet is the new Rock. I think he will have those marquee matches at WrestleMania in the next 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 years. I think he'll be a world champion in 2020. He is, he in terms of his stature, doesn't really matter anymore. We've seen Daniel Bryan do well. We've seen Rey Mysterio do well. And I think that, even though Vince is really high on Braun Strowman and people of that size, he's more keen on people with looks, people with the aesthetic to, go on television and represent the company. And I think if you put Ricochet in a suit, he reminds me a little bit of, reminds me a little bit of The Rock. He has that charisma. Like I say, a lot of people aren't too high in terms of wrestling fans anyway, aren't too high on his mic skills, but I think that he has time to develop that, and his in-ring ability is, in terms of the roster, probably next to AJ Styles in terms of his in-ring ability and captivating nature. He is second to none. Obviously we've got John Morrison, who I've just done a video on, a previous Wrestling Thoughts video, coming back into the company. I think they're going to have some marquee matches. And in terms of movesets, Ricochet, John Morrison, AJ Styles, in terms of in-ring workers, maybe Shelton Benjamin is another one. But in terms of the best in-ring workers we are going to see over the next, 2 to 3 years, those are the top three. And Ricochet, I think, is going to surpass Styles, especially with Styles retiring in the next few years. Or year, I think it is. But I do think Ricochet has the look. I do think he has the ability to transition in the same way The Rock has done. I know he has an endorsement from The Rock as well. So I think that will happen. Like I say, some people might look at the stature, of The Rock and The Rock versus Ricochet and think, oh, that's not going to happen. But Ricochet is a good-looking guy. He's got the build. He's obviously a little bit smaller, but there's, look at Triple H and how much his physique has changed. I'm not saying they want to do that. I'm not saying Ricochet wants to do that, but it's possible. And also, like I say, size doesn't matter so much now with guys like Daniel Bryan at the top of the card. Guys like Dolph Ziggler have been at the top of the card, in recent years as well. So, I think that, if anybody is going to take that, following the footsteps of The Rock, obviously I've not really mentioned John Cena here, but I think Ricochet has that kind of vibe and that capacity, very big, with multiple diverse markets in terms of ethnicity, in terms of, multiple backgrounds. Ricochet does cater, he does tick a lot of boxes if we're going to look at it from a business perspective. He's really, really popular with a lot of young fans. He's popular with a lot of Hispanic fans. He's popular with African Americans. He's got that diverse ability to appeal to multiple types and multiple multiple people from multiple backgrounds. So it's quite an exciting time for Ricochet, and I think we've seen, given that he had a big push straight up from NXT, he was the first North American champion down there. He's gone up and he's won some titles on the main roster already, and I think he will have more kind of marquee feuds coming up. I'd like to see him versus Mysterio again. I said in the previous video I'd like to see him versus John Morrison when that happens, and I think Morrison could really put over Ricochet, as that kind of, the next dynamo, next high-flying whirlwind, without trying to sound too cheesy. But I think he is the kind of guy you could put on a camera, or a TV show and represent the company well, which is great because obviously he's an indie darling as well. He came from, much like Morrison, Ricochet's come from Lucha Underground, where he was Prince Puma. He's been around the indies a long time. He's been doing a lot of work, and he's worked really hard to get to where he is. So it's an exciting time to be Ricochet, and I believe there's a lot of weight to his, to his brand going forward. Like I say, I want to see him at the top of the card in 2-3 years for a WrestleMania, but I do believe he'll have a world title run this year, even if it's just to test the waters with Paul Heyman's kind of love of him. I think he will, get the rub, over other people that have, perhaps also deserve it, like Cedric Alexander or Buddy Murphy. I think Ricochet has that all-round appeal that they're looking for over those guys. What do you think? Do you think that that Ricochet is the next Rock, that he has that ability to transcend the wrestling ring and go into movies, go into video games, etc.? And I mean, obviously he's already in video games, but in WWE, but have his own character, have his own brand outside of the WWE. What kind of feuds would you like to see him in if he goes to a WrestleMania? Like I say, I've said John Morrison, but obviously, I'd love to see Ricochet versus Roman Reigns. I'd love to see Ricochet go over John Cena if John Cena was to come back. So yeah, let me know what you think of Ricochet and how you would like to see him booked. Do you want to see him at the top of the card? Do you want to see him become the next Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson? Don't forget to check out some of the other videos we've done in this series, and don't forget to check out our history of wrestling series, Wrestling Rewind. We've also just started a new Let's Chat category where me and Anthony and Ollie and Anthony and Ollie sometimes just have a discussion about modern day stuff as well. And then obviously we've got the NXT UK stuff, which is weekly because that's where we're based. So check out that. That's Anthony and Ollie. And we've also done some video game stuff as well around Fire Pro. I know there's going to be some 2K20 stuff coming up soon on the channel. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of this, what you think of Ricochet, and if you think he has that, that ability to transcend the wrestling world like The Rock has done. Don't forget to check out Redbubble if you want to buy some merchandise, which you can't see on this, but you can see on the Wrestling Rewind with me and Anthony. Don't forget to like us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, /GimmeAHole. I'm just recovering from illness, so I do apologise if I'm mumbling, but it's a pleasure to chat to you guys, and I'll talk to you guys in the comments. Thank you very much. I'll speak to you soon. Keep it gay.